Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and thank you so much for joining us for one of our talks today. I'm so thrilled today to be joined by the fantastic Tyler Dean Flores, currently starring in the movie Reefa. And I really wanted to ask you about the initial genesis of his family's involvement, because I know that the writer-director, Jessica, spent several years developing this project and worked very, very closely with them. And they shared a lot of personal stories about the character that you're playing within the film. And so I was interested in how much opportunity you had to connect with them, or whether it was really through the things that she was sharing that they had told her.
It was really through the things that they were sharing with Jessica, because it's very touchy. So I let Jessica kind of, I guess, be the middle person in that situation, and then I would just gather all the information and go on from there. But I did speak to Ophir, which is Reefa's real sister, very few times. I just wanted little notes like what kind of music did Reefa listen to, and those just like small little questions like that, and then she would share them with me. So that was pretty cool.
And, obviously it is based on a real person's life, and it is based on something that became a really big news story and really affected a lot of the community in that area in Miami as well. And so we ultimately know going into the film what the culmination of the story is going to be. But the story really focuses on his life and everything leading up to that moment. And it feels like there was a real conscious decision and choice on everyone's part to make that the main thing, and a real celebration of who he was as an artist and as a person. And so I was interested in how that really impacted and influenced a lot of the work that you came into the film doing, knowing that that was what everybody wanted to be able to celebrate through telling the story.
Yeah, that was what I wanted to tell as well. Like, of course, when I got the story and got to read about like Reefa and the whole situation, I was hoping that they would tell the story like this, because that's the most important part. So going into the film and really preparing for this, I really just thought about, life as much as possible. And I just try to show as much life as possible.
Yeah. And obviously, whenever stories of police brutality happen, there is that story and there is the person behind the headlines and behind what is just a name printed in the paper, which is obviously what this film is addressing. And within that, I was actually interested in whether a lot of the archival material and coverage of this case at the time was useful to you. And if so, how you kind of combed through for details and things that people shared about him from that information, or whether you found it more fortuitous to really focus on the stories that his family were sharing directly, and what Jessica had pulled from that into the scripts.
Yeah, I didn't look into the case at all. I didn't want to. I really just wanted to focus on who he was and show his life as much as possible. So I focus as much on the family, like what the family said, friends, the script, Jessica, and I honed in on that stuff and really went full fledged with it.
Yeah. And we get such
Mhm.
an opportunity to see his artwork in so many different forms. He worked a lot in graffiti, but also he worked in a lot of different mediums. And stylistically, when you look at his work, there's a really broad range within it. And so I was interested in your journey and process of looking at all the different art forms that he created and worked within, and what that told you about him as a person internally that you could then bring into your performance.
Yeah, he was an artist, just like an all around artist. He wasn't just a graffiti artist or something. Like this kid was, Reefa was an all around artist. So going through his work, and that was another thing that I did as well. We had a Dropbox file of just all of Reefa's artwork, whether it was stickers, um, anything, literally anything that he did. And I just try to really think about like what was going through his head at certain moments. So it really just told me that this kid is just super talented. I mean, I wish I can do those kind of things that he did. So it was cool to kind of live through those shoes and feel that out.
And did you have much access to a lot of his different artwork to be able to dive in and to look at that and kind of just sit and gestate with his pieces as well?
Yeah, not physically, but we had a Dropbox file of everything that he's made, or almost everything, because Jessica told me that making the film, she would go to the family's house and they would just continue pulling out things that he's done, and she's never even seen them before, or they even forgot about it. So it was cool to hear that.
And then in terms of the way that he looked at the world as well, his artwork's such a fascinating eye into that, and even we see through the film that he looks at an abandoned building and he sees that as a canvas and a story that he can tell, and the way that he wants to create a piece of artwork that has a connectivity to the community. And so how did you look at a lot of details like that and just pull that into thinking about the way that he looked at the world around him the whole time?
He looked at everything as an opportunity. Like whether it was the abandoned building, whether it was, skateboards that he would ride on every day, and turn that to, something personal, something that he can kind of connect to him, anything, and just really looking forward to things, like looking forward to art school. Like that was another great opportunity. So that last piece on the abandoned building was going to give him a lot of respect and give him that boost. So when he goes to art school, it's like, I did that.
And I know that before filming, you also went down to Miami and you spent several weeks there, spent a lot of time skateboarding around a lot of the neighborhoods and the areas that he lived in, that he spent a lot of time with his friends around. And how did that immersion and that time that you spent before filming help you to be able to step into your character in a completely different way, where it was almost that he was the fabric of you and you didn't have to consciously think as much about a lot of moments, particularly when you were filming?
It was more of the vibe that I was trying to find in Miami, because I've spent, just a little bit of time in Miami, maybe like a couple days, like here and there, but I never spent a lot of time, especially locally, and going through those little blocks and going to Wynwood Walls or Wynwood in general, and just finding all those little niches with graffiti and art and everything. So really just being in Miami, the lifestyle, like the air, it's amazing, and it does really affect you as a person. So I try to really, I guess, hone in and feel that as much as possible.
He's also, as an artist, someone who really looked to the artwork of other people a lot. And even within the script in the film, they talk about the influence of artists ranging from Ai Weiwei to Cindy Sherman to Banksy and the impact that they had on him. And so knowing that those were artists who were really influential to him, did you want to, or find it useful to spend much time looking at their artwork and thinking about how that would have influenced and impacted him?
Just a little bit. I think he looked at those artists as, of course he loved their art, and this is just my opinion. Like he might have felt completely different. I don't know that, but I did try to look at Banksy and all those kind of people as like what was their path? How did they get there? And sort of be influenced by that. But Reefa, just from spending time as a character and spending time with his friends and stuff, he was influenced by everything and anything. It wasn't just one small thing. It wasn't just graffiti or something. Like he loved all forms of art, and he was really influenced by everything, by all of that.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask you a little bit about building up the dynamic that he had with his family, because that's such a central part and a core to the film and to who he was as a person. And I think you do a really wonderful job at building that relationship with the rest of the cast, but also creating a very real dynamic where it's like they're very close to each other. They love and adore each other, but there's moments where, they get on each other's nerves and you see him and his sister bickering, but at the same time, he's her biggest protector and her biggest supporter. And so I wanted to ask a little bit about how you all worked to build up the complexity and the reality of that relationship with all the love that was in that house as well.
Yeah, that's just like, that's family right there. That's just, I grew up like that, I have an older brother, and we have a great relationship, and it's just like that. Like my brother has my back no matter what, and I have his. And working with Cynthia Carmona, who plays Ophir, which is my sister in the film, she's amazing. As soon as we met, we clicked. So we spent a lot of time before, during, especially the, Jose, Margarita, who plays my mother. And when the when those scenes would stop, When they yell cut, we just play music and just dance with each other and just like laugh, and that's all it was. That's how we really built that chemistry. We just try to be around each other as much as possible.
The film also explores a relationship that he had with a woman named Frankie, played by Clara McGregor within the film. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about developing that relationship and dynamic as well, because the two of you really capture this essence of a relationship that they didn't have very much time to dive into together, but that very much feels like it was conversations and connections that really reached beneath the surface. You know, their first instinct and their first connection with each other was talking about art and artistry. And so it was interesting how the two of you worked together to build that out and to really create such an immediate, deep connection between the two of them.
Well, Claire and I were friends prior to filming. So I guess that was some chemistry there. And being on set, it was so funny to work as working actors together and like being in love and stuff. So Clara, she's great. And I just really try to pick up on certain things that I love about Clara and kind of just let that take me. So, I mean, I don't know what she did, but that was it for me.
And the scene where they first meet is because he was hired to do body paint for her, and she's a model within the film. And so through moments like that, we also see the juxtaposition between who he wants to be as an artist and the stories that he wants to tell with his art, and then moments like that where he's taking on a job because he wants to be able to pay the bills and make money doing what he loves, but he's not necessarily telling his story in those moments. And so how did you approach thinking about his art and artistry and really representing that idea and that internal struggle between the artist that you want to become and some of the things that you have to do along the way as personal sacrifices?
Yeah, like no matter what, it's art, you know, like whether it's a job, like I just feel like Reefa wanted to express himself always. And if he can get paid for that, like why not? You know? So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
And you've said as well that you felt immediately very connected to him as a character and felt that you had some similarities. Is it that sense of just like self-expression, having that creativity that's flowing through you that was what part of what really connected you to him in that way?
Yeah. As soon as I got the script, I saw myself in Reefa because I saw how he wanted to uplift everyone around him, how he always wanted to express himself and not be caught up in some like box. Like he didn't want to be placed in a box at all. And as soon as I felt that, and I felt like his intention or his purpose was on this earth, it was me, you know, it was really me.
And then the film, as most films, was filmed out of sequence, but Jessica really made it so that that final culmination and the interaction with the police when he's creating his final mural was something that could be filmed in order to allow you to really build the emotional section of that and to build a lot of the anxiety and tension that comes within that scene. So how did that really help you and Ricardo in being able to film those scenes in order and to really gradually build to that crescendo within the film?
Oh, Ricardo and I, he's awesome. I really tried. I was cool with Ricardo, but I try to keep some distance from him when we were filming as much as possible. So when we did have those scenes, I was able to, I guess, look at him with that perspective that I feel like Reefa would have in that moment. But building up to that point, like I said before, I really try not to think about it like that. I mean, I just try to think about what was at stake at that moment. If you get caught, what happens? If they call your parents, what happens? If you get arrested, what happens? And I just let that take me on.
And with that potential of what could happen, he was also there as an immigrant, and his family were all waiting for their green card papers. So there was a huge element of risk to everything that he did, in particular in being involved in graffiti art at that point as well. And so how did you want to play that side of just the weight and responsibility that comes with every single decision, and even just the fact that him just leaving the house and going to the grocery store, that there could be implications that could happen in his day that he didn't even intend every single day of his existence?
Well, Reefa knew that. Everyone that is awaiting their green cards know that. And that's why his parents were so on top of him about the things that he was doing, and would always question him, asking if it's legal or illegal. But Reefa just wanted to express himself. He knew that. I personally feel like he knew that. But you can't help it. You know, when you're creative, you just want to create. I know that feeling.
And then when you were filming that final culmination scene as well, you were actually filming that very close to where he was tasered by police officers as well. And so I wanted to ask you about just the emotional impact of telling his story and inhabiting him as a character, and knowing that location wise that you were right in the space that he was in as well.
Yeah, we were actually a few blocks away from where it all happened. I mean, it's certainly touching. It's kind of a sign in a way. I actually passed by it yesterday when I was driving, and whenever I pass that corner, I don't know, something just touches me. You know, like there's definitely a connection there. Um, but I guess thinking about it, knowing that it was a few blocks away, I would just keep trying to be my best to tell the story.
Yeah. And when you were filming a lot of those final scenes, you'd gotten about halfway through, and the police actually came and shut it down, even though you guys had all of the appropriate permits to be filming there, because they realized what it was that you were telling as a story. And the film still came together, and Jessica did a fantastic job at really pivoting. But it really came through a sense of community, which I wanted to ask about, because it sounds like there was everyone from local location managers who came and shared locations, helped with scouting new spaces to be able to film those final moments. And also, you know, people within the community adding their signatures to permit applications. And so I just wanted to ask about the experience of creating a film and telling a story where you had such a sense of community coming together to get you all over that final hurdle and the final finish line.
We all got through that together. It was very, very hard, very hard, and disappointing too, because we were right in the middle of filming, and we literally get shut down. All of a sudden, Jessica is like, "They're shutting us down," and I was honestly very confused about everything, because, like you said, we had everything that we needed to be there. You know, it was sad, but we pulled through it. And it just showed how much heart that we have, and they can't stop us from telling Reefa's story.
And in playing this role and inhabiting him throughout the film, what was the most challenging aspect of playing him throughout the movie for you, and finding your performance?
That's a great question. My most challenging moment of playing Reefa, I guess this is with every film, but you always want to tell the story, you know, the right way. As an actor, you have that pressure on you, especially if it's someone who is real. So I really just try to get as much details as I could about Reefa to push me through and not really have any challenges. Yeah, I think that's really it. I mean, I would say the challenge was probably doing some skateboard tricks. that was it. They actually didn't let me do any tricks either, because they didn't want me to get hurt. But yeah, that was it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this about making the film, and congratulations on your performance, and particularly with that hurdle that happened with making the film, with everybody coming together and getting it done. It's such an achievement. Thank you so much, Tyler.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.